Wisdom Parents Edition. Welcome to our summit, where we bring you exciting from all around the globe. Brought to you by Role Model Maker and Dr. Ali Lankarani, affectionately known as Dr. L and the Parent Whisperer. Dr. L is a clinical neuroscientist, inspirational speaker, and international coach, and the head of Role Model Maker and the sponsor for Health, Wealth, and Wisdom Summit. Please welcome back our hosts, Jenny Trask and Kimberly Hobshot, and our next speaker. Take it away, girls.
Awesome. Hello. Welcome back, everybody, to Health, Wealth, and Wisdom Parents Edition. We are having an amazing day so far, and I am really excited to be here with you, Martha Alexander. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, too.
I love it. I love it. We actually just got to be friends recently, and we're already loving on each other, and this is going to be an awesome session. I cannot wait. So we are talking today about how an acrimonious divorce impacts kids, and Martha is an attorney, a recovering attorney, she told me the other day, and a certified fearless living coach. She spent 50 years figuring out how to leave her parents' divorce and not carry around the guilt and anger and trepidation that remained stuck on her from their divorce. And now she helps individuals of divorced parents of all ages break free from the emotional remnants and constraints of their parents' divorce. So Martha has dedicated her adult life to fixing divorce. She went to law school and spent decades practicing family law in an effort to stop the emotional backlash from the divorce impacting generations. And she spent years developing tools and skills to help make sure that kids of divorced parents can have all the joy and support of a family without the divorce fallout. She wants individuals of divorced parents to be able to truly and joyfully celebrate holidays, birthdays, and all of their life achievements without a thought as to their parents' divorce. So yeah, I am all about this. I definitely am excited to hear 50 years of accumulated knowledge. I know that you're just really passionate about this. And so can you tell everybody a little bit about your story and how you came to be so passionate on this subject?
Absolutely. So in 1968, I was 7. Yeah, I'm going to be 60 this year. Anyway, my parents decided to get divorced. I came home from wherever I was that day, and it was my dad and my paternal grandmother who were at home, and they were left to tell me that my mom and 2 of my brothers had moved. That's how I found out that my parents were getting divorced, and that my 2 favorite brothers, the 2 closest to me, I have 3 brothers. Well, now I have 4 because I got a brother when my dad remarried. But the 2 closest to me when I was 7 moved with my mom. So 7, I had some abandonment issues. There was a lot of stuff to unpack in that. If that's not bad enough, my parents, I don't know if they took joy, but they gleefully, or at least talked a lot about how much they disliked each other and how much the other was at fault and how horrible the other parent was. I mean, a lot. Like I know more about what went on in their marriage than anybody should ever know. I know more about what went on in their divorce than anyone should ever know. And it ended, and I stayed with my dad, which is an odd thing to have happened in 1968. And it is because divorce wasn't allowed in 1968. A judge could say no. Did you know that? In 1968, if you went before a judge and the judge the year before had told one of my mom's friends, you have a roof over your head, you have food, you have kids, nobody beats you, suck it up, buttercup.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It wasn't until the 70s when California decided on the no-fault divorce system and all the states followed that divorce was just a right. Isn't that unbelievable? Something that we kind of take for granted now. Yeah, it wasn't a right. So it was in the settlement. My dad said, you can have whoever wants to go with you. The boys are old enough to choose, can go with you. You can't take Martha.
Wow.
I know my dad loved me and I know we had a special gig. And I also know it was probably the biggest way to really put the screws to my mom, right? Mm-hmm. So all of that being said, through the divorce, through all the hate, none of my brothers and I, none of the four of us, the oldest four of us, went through our high school graduation because we didn't want our parents to be in the same place. So we just opted out of graduation. None of us went to our college graduation. We just opted out. The only graduation ceremony I did was law school, and it was miserable. I wish I hadn't done it. It was my parents. It was like a civil war at the table, at the dinner celebration. My mom said something snarky, and I took my dad's side because that was my side of my civil family war, and my brothers took my mom's side, and we just kind of went, Rah! And I went, I'm leaving the table. And that's about when I decided I was done, that I had carried so much, so long. And when I got married, I told my parents, here's the deal. Whoever has an issue at my wedding will be the second one invited because I will no longer host both of you together. So if you can't get along at my wedding, I'm done. It will be the other person who comes to baptisms or birthdays or graduations or whatever that comes up in the future. Well, they actually got along. They actually went, oh, there are consequences. Wait a minute. So I said, the first parent that says anything negative to me afterwards about anything that went in your view wrong, you're out. I'm not going to put up with it. And then I started realizing how my mindset, how things really kind of messed with my mindset. So that's one of the biggest things I want to talk about today, how a parent's mindset really matters.
Wow.
It matters. If you tell your kids that the other parent is bad, know that the message your child hears is half of me is bad. Half of me is bad. And if both your parents say that, then what part of you isn't bad, right? Because you're half of each parent. So I learned, and most adult kids of divorce or kids from divorce, when it's acrimonious, learned that I needed to change to be in front of either parent. If I went to see my mom, I needed to delete the part of me that was my dad. And when I was with my dad, I needed to delete the part of me that was my mom. So I became a chameleon. And I realized at some point as an adult, why am I different with this parent than with this parent? Why am I different with this brother versus this brother? Why do I? And it's because I changed who I was. And that's what kids learn to do. Change who they are, become people pleasers. And we don't really learn who we are. We don't have the time to develop ourselves in our own right, who we are.
Wow. I totally feel this. I totally see this happening, and these consequences really happening with children. I hadn't thought about that, the piece of around, thinking that if I'm bad, like if the other parent is bad, then I'm half that, right? And how many times definitely as a child of divorce have we thought to ourselves, they're like the one parent is complaining about this trait, mm-hmm. right? But I see that trait in myself, mm-hmm. right? And so I need to delete that trait or change that trait, or that trait is bad because it upsets my mother, or wow. Yeah. Very profound.
It creates a whole mindset for a kid and survival skills, right? So one of the things that came from having to change and being that chameleon is that I hated travel. I canceled. I wanted to cancel travel. I've been married 27 years and I wanted to cancel my honeymoon. I've wanted to cancel every single trip. And I realized that this last spring, and my my daughter and husband were like, yeah, okay, this is your first awareness that this is a habit you do. Like, yeah, it kind of is. And I'm like, huh. And my daughter said, no, and not only that, but you change your personality. And I'm like, oh, the fact that she knows that means that my parents' divorce has impacted my kid, right? Through how it impacted me. So I was able to change that. I don't have that idiosyncrasy. I got rid of that in May by changing my mindset, learning that, identifying the mindset and switching it. The other thing that really matters is communication.
Yeah.
It is such a big deal. What you say, you were kind of talking about that, right? What you say, how you say it, your tone of voice, your body language, all of that. We read for survival. I don't know about you. I know that you have a similar journey. I can read a room and where there might be a little snafu in terms of energy or whatever. I can read a room instantly. I'd be a phenomenal spy. If I talk too much,
Right.
Too much. So
Well, because as children, right, we're wanting to like keep that status quo and wanting, right? Like, I mean, how many of us felt responsible as a child for our parents' emotions, right? Like, right, we thought that there was something we could do, even if you knew that it was about the other parent, right? There's still, I think, that feeling that you can somehow fix it, right? Because, and a lot of times I do see parents taking comfort in their children, which I know you're probably going to get to here in a bit. But when they take comfort in their children, it actually I think reinforces that feeling that the child can do something about these feelings. And then that fosters codependency. Boy, there's a whole rabbit hole here.
A whole rabbit hole. And by the way, I love Alice in Wonderland. So I do the whole, through my business is through the looking glass. So I do the rabbit hole thing.
You have a whole Alice in Wonderland look. It's totally perfect.
I do. Yeah. So body language, right? We do become completely dependent on or think that we're completely responsible for the parent that we live with, right? Because that's the one. So I became completely responsible for my dad, and he reinforced that in some pretty serious ways. He used to say, when he was in a fight with my stepmother, you're the only woman I love, or the only woman who loves me, right? You're the only woman who loves me. Well, I know he didn't.
It's a lot of pressure.
I know he didn't mean it in that way, right? But what does that do? So what you say, how you communicate really matters. What message are you giving your child when you're like, oh, your dad wants blah, 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 or telling them your dad didn't make payments, right? So,
seems inappropriate.
So I was invited to prom. I know, it was awesome. Anyway, I was invited to prom my senior year, and I was so excited. And I went home and told my mom and wanted to get a dress. And I was so excited. And she said, yeah, your dad doesn't pay enough child support for that. Call your dad. So I called my dad, and my dad's response was, I pay a shitload of child support your mom needs. That's your mom.
Oh my gosh.
That.
But how much does that suck for you? Because you just want a prom dress.
I just wanted a prom dress.
Both of them are basically kind of saying,
not my job.
We're not my job. Right.
Not my job.
Right. And so it was more important to them to jab at each other and to use you to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Than it was to get their daughter a prom dress.
Now, do you want to know if I got a prom dress?
Yeah. Did you get a prom dress?
Yeah, I did. So my brother, Jim, one of my favorite people in the universe, was in medical school and was eating like the equivalent of whatever top ramen was back in the 70s, right? Whatever that was. So he was, I mean, he was on a graduate school budget and didn't have a ton of money, or college budget, whatever it was. And he said, I called him and was like, oh, our parents suck, blah, 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 blah. And he said, I will pay for your prom dress. Here's your budget. I will send you the money. Here's my only stipulation. I get a picture. Neither parent gets a picture. They can see it, but they may never have a copy of it.
Wow.
I said, done.
Wow.
Done. Right? So neither of my parents ever got a copy of it.
Wow. Crazy.
And
yeah,
I
so much injuring happening over this divorce, right? And it's just like there's so much going on there.
10 years later. Get over yourself. It ain't that important.
Wow.
How you communicate really matters. Yeah. Being able to continue that communication with your ex-spouse for your children, right? That's what matters.
Yeah.
Have a child-centered divorce, for heaven's sakes. So the other thing that matters is a support system. You kind of touched on this. You want to vent. And by the way, let me define venting for y'all. Venting is moving the energy through you. It is talking it out so that you can find a solution. Complaining is when you stay in that energy and continue to gnaw at something endlessly for years and years and years and years. So my parents were complainers. They didn't vent to move it or to find a solution. They vented they complained for the pure joy of dissing each other. That is not healthy, people. There has got to be a better way to do that. So my rules for that: do not use your children. I never needed to know anything that I knew, and it was emotionally destructive to me and my development. Find somebody outside of the family. So my grandmother was the one who finally convinced me. I moved right before high school. I left my dad in Iowa and I moved to California. And really hard move, because my dad and my grandmother were my favorite people. But my grandmother kept telling me my mom was really bad. And I needed to discover for myself, right, what part of me was bad and whether it was okay or not. Right? I needed to know that. And that is the only reason I moved. The only reason I moved was to discover that. So don't use someone in the family, because their body language, what they say, what they overhear matters. Really, really matters.
Yeah. And it's so hard, I think, when people do keep it in the family, right? When they do use the family for the support, I see the family will then sometimes continue on the anger when really that person was just venting, but then now the family takes it on because this is their loved one, right? So this is their loved one. So now they're going to take on all that anger. And so then now they're going to start talking to the children about how terrible that other parent is. And I really think that, and that just creates a snowball, right? That makes it so much worse. Yeah.
Even if they don't talk, right, their body language gives the child clues on how you feel about someone, right? I knew how everyone in my family felt about my mom or my dad, depending upon where you were, right? I knew based upon either what they said, looks that they gave, or body language that they had. We look for clues to get as kids. We look for those clues to know how we're supposed to feel and where we are, right? Where it all stands. So find someone outside the family if you're going to vent. And when you pick a friend to vent with, please don't pick your child's best friend's mom or someone on the soccer team or whatever, because that mom's going to talk to that dad, right, at home, and the friend's going to overhear it, and it's going to get repeated, right? Stay completely out of your kid's circle to vent or to talk or whatever. So towards that end, there are therapists you can talk to, vent to, support groups, divorce coaches. I'm not one of those. Whatever you need, but find a resource outside of your child's circle for your support system.
Yeah.
You don't need to have a civil war at home.
Right. Yeah. So totally true. And I had thought, of course, about it not being your child, but furthermore about, it not being your child's best friend's mom, right? Yeah. That's also really, really hard. Yeah.
Well, and let's be serious. When you're a mom, that, those are who your friends are, right? Because you're hanging out so often, and that's a natural, on a play date, that's a natural place to, talk. It's just not an appropriate place to talk about.
Mm-hmm. So now, I feel like we can take this in two directions, right? Like we can take it in the direction of, for those people who feel that they've been through this, that they've been through this, how do we begin to unravel the things that happened? How do we begin to, okay, so our parents didn't do any of this right. Our parents totally botched the job here and had a horrible divorce that is clearly, made us chameleons, right? Potentially given rise to doubt, or fear that we are bad people, that has, caused us to actually completely, almost even hide who we are, right? Potentially, that has, led to all these things. So how do we begin to undo all of that, right? And then I think there's probably another piece about, if you're going through divorce, how do we prevent doing this to our own kids? So I know that's a lot. We've got about 20 minutes left, though. So, 15.
That's more than enough time to spit all that out, right? Get your pen and paper ready, right? Let's go. So for me, the first one you asked about, how do we undo it as adults? So my process was really about discovering who I am, because I didn't know. I had spent so much time turning into someone else to please other people that I started. There's some free assessments online. Positive Intelligence by Shirzad Chamine is a really good assessment to kind of find those bugaboos in you. And that's online at positiveintelligence.com. I did the DISC assessment. So I did some of those things and really started to explore who I was, right? I don't like details. I became an attorney, right? I'm recovering because I hate details. Details are like, I'm a vision enthusiast. I don't know if you can tell I'm enthusiastic. So I find taking some of those tests, right? I did strength language with Gallup. I did some of those other things just to really kind of dive down. And then I did fearless living, and that really put some of the more pieces in. And I did the Enneagram. You don't have to do all of those, right? Those are things that I've done to explain pieces of me and to accept them as me. Not part of my mom, not part of my dad, although I have both of them in me. I always say I wish I'd gotten my mom's legs. She had these beautiful legs, and instead I got my dad's. So that's something I have with my dad. I'm just saying. Got my mom's blonde hair. Moving on. So I that's where I started, was really figuring out who I am and how I wanted to show up in this world, right? Because I spent 50 years showing up the way I thought I was supposed to in various situations. So I wasn't ever just me, right? And that's one of the saddest things, because I'm not sure, both my parents have passed now, so I'm not sure that either of them knew who I truly became or who I truly was. They might have seen glimpses of it, but I hid a lot, not intentionally, but survival skill wise, hid a lot from them so that they would love me. So it's really kind of interesting. That was my first place, to really figure out who I was, figure out why I reacted to things I reacted to. Those knee-jerk reactions. Have you ever had that?
Yeah.
Like,
It's funny that you say this about being a chameleon. So I've done all of them. The Myers-Briggs, the DISC, the Enneagram, all of them. Until very recently, when I've done some stuff. I mean, I did a lot of therapy as a kid, right? My family dynamic is very complicated. I muted myself. Sorry about that. So I've done all of those. Up until recently, I would come out perfectly even in all the categories.
really?
Perfectly even in every category. But is that a result of me keeping the peace, and do you know what I mean? And being being that chameleon, right? Is that a piece of that? Now it's interesting to think about that now that you've said it and go, is that what that's about?
Yeah. Am I really even across the board?
Because I know how to play to all sides. Like, my strength is that I know how to play to all sides and keep everybody happy. Absolutely. So I know all the answers to check all the boxes so that everyone is happy, because I'm the consummate people pleaser, right? From all this strife, I'm the consummate people pleaser, that I can make sure that I check all the boxes and make everybody happy. So is it really that I'm even on all the categories, or is that a product of my childhood? It's an interesting thought to have now that you've brought this up. So sorry. So guys, first step is to get to know yourself. Take some of these tests, right? And really kind of get to know yourself and who you are and how you want to show up in the world.
Who you want to be, right? So there was a period of time that I had a negative bent, right? I was a complainer at one time in my life, and I'm like, is this who I want to be in the world? Who do I want to be? List one of the exercises I give my clients is, who are your 3 top heroes in your life? They can be dead, they can be alive, they can be fictional. I don't care. It can be Jesus. It can be whoever you want it to be. Buddha. What are your favorite qualities of those people, those 3 people, right? What do you admire about those people the most? And you can kind of start to see, because what you admire the most really is who you aspire to be, right? Mm-hmm. That's what you're attracted to.
That's such an easy way to look at it. I've never had anybody suggest that, but that's a great way to look at it. Is those top 3 heroes, what are their top qualities, and those are really the things that you aspire to be. Because it's so hard when you have given up who you are for so long and you've been that chameleon for so long. It is really difficult to know who you really are. It's like, just figure out who you are. Like, okay. Right. So I like this hero method. That's a great method.
And the people who are from intact families, right, who spent their childhood discovering who they were and figuring out what worked and what didn't work, what worked in relationships, what didn't work. Most of us didn't do that. We spent our time figuring out how to survive, how to chameleon, how to change depending upon where we were. So we never got that true sense of who we are, right? Never got that. So it's a great time. That's where I start. The second thing that and by the way, what you just described is what I view as a superpower that we have, that we can be anything, anywhere. That's why I think we'd be great spies. If I could be a little less out there, I'd make a great spy. The other thing is communication.
Yeah.
So if you're raised in a family that got divorced, right, and has no communication skills, where are you going to learn how to communicate? where do you learn how to have those difficult conversations? So my stepmom would say to my dad every time they fought, well, we're going to get divorced. I'm just going to leave. Every time they fought. They were married 50 years. So you can imagine how long that conversation went on. It went on even the last year of their marriage. I was negotiating that whole, you're not getting divorced. It's been almost 50 years. It's just not going to happen, people. So when I got married, my first fight, I honest to God thought I was getting divorced.
Oh no.
I did.
Oh, right. Yeah, I could see how that would, yeah.
And I was a family law attorney. So I went through how we were dividing the assets and how it was going to work and what we were going to do.
You went all the way down that rabbit hole.
All the way down the hole.
Boy, your husband was probably like, what on earth?
He did. He was like,
Jesus.
We had a heated discussion, right? We were talking about something, right? I'm like, that wasn't communication to me. We're going to get divorced. He's like, no, we're not. So it took me 10 years to stop dividing everything when we had a fight. 10 years.
Wow.
And once we had kids, right, I would come up with the schedules for them and whatever, right? I was all.
Wow. All the way down that rabbit hole.
All the way down that rabbit hole. And he would just look at me and say, again, no, we're having a discussion.
Right.
Or if he wanted to talk about something I didn't want to talk about, I'd go, whatever. Talk to Dan, dude. Talk to Dan. It wasn't until I learned who I was and learned how not to be threatened by difficult conversations that I was able. He is like in seventh heaven now. He is like, oh my God, we get to talk about all this stuff.
Right.
I don't go overboard, dude.
But it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense that as a child of divorce, you would have a difficult time having those difficult conversations, right? Because I mean, look at what happened, right?
Right.
So difficult conversations lead to divorce. And I guess it depends on what your particular family dynamic was, you know, as to whether or not you could have those. See, in my family, we could have difficult conversations, even though we did have a divorce and all that. There was a lot of therapy. And so my family, I was taught that we could have difficult conversations. I was taught in my family that honesty is paramount. So in my family, if you were honest, everything was okay. As long as you were honest, no one would get in trouble. No one would be mad at you as long as you were honest. But my husband, who's also a product of divorce, did not learn that. And so my husband did not want to have difficult conversations and did not want to tell the truth. We've been together for almost 20 years, 19 years. And he was just he would lie because he learned that you had to lie. Like you couldn't tell the truth because like you got in trouble, right? Like nobody, and he basically kind of learned that nobody tells the truth. Like he saw everyone lying to each other and he was like, oh, so we lie to each other. Like that's what we do. And then if you told the truth, it would be horrible, right? Like you would get in trouble. And so we had these two totally different dynamics in communication in our marriage. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting to realize too, you're kind of talking about like owning your communication, right? Like what are your communication issues and what do you believe that this is going to be, right? And then what is it for that other person?
Yeah. And setting boundaries, right? Boundaries are a big thing for us, for products of divorce, right? How do you know what you need, what you want? It took me forever to be able to say what I wanted or what I needed. Sometimes I still have problems with that, right? So those are some of them. So the biggest thing is becoming aware of a mindset or aware, right? It's really about starting to pay attention to some of the things that you rub up against that you go, why is that there, right? Why do I have this? Can I trace it back to something? Does it still serve me? That's how you change a mindset, right? Does this mindset serve me? So the travel one, I was like, do I want to cancel my travel? Do I have to change who I am now to travel? And the answer was no. So the mindset that it was too much energy to travel, right? It was way too much work. And I could no longer figure out who I was supposed to be because I was with my husband, right? Or visiting family with my husband, right? So it was who I was becoming was way too complicated. No, I can just be me. I don't have to do that. That mindset no longer serves me. This is the mindset I am choosing to reinstall, right? This is what I want to reinstall over that, and really working at it. So awareness is key. And I'm going to tail back in because I see we have like 3 minutes to for the parents out there who are contemplating divorce or are in a divorce, right? If you can't stay married, it's not, divorce in and of itself isn't bad. That's what I'm going to tell you. It's how you do it. It is 100% up to you and how you deal with your kids and the other spouse as to whether or not your kids are going to be impacted. So awareness, right? Being aware of what you say, do, how you look when something comes up, being aware of your kids' viewpoint, right? Making sure that you are focused on your kids, having your kids know that it's okay to love each other, you know, that it's okay to love both parents and that both parents love you and you support both relationships, and that both parents are okay and you don't need to do anything but be a kid. Those are the messages. If you need help with that, there's a place called the Center for Child-Centered Divorce, and it's a phenomenal resource if you're thinking about that. I am not affiliated with it, but I strongly encourage parents who are doing that to look for resources to help them focus on your child. The Child-Centered Divorce. So, and to do, you know, to have a mindset that's child-based, to have communication, watch what you're saying, be aware, awareness, and a support system outside your kids. Circle. Yeah. So big circle, right? Go outside of that, even if you have to hire someone for that.
Yeah, awesome.
So those are my.
Thank you for all of that. I really appreciate it. And I definitely, you and I talked about this before too, and just to kind of, you know, for any parents out there that are contemplating divorce, you know, like you said, it's not bad, right? I mean, it can be an opportunity to model good things for your kids, because what you don't want to model for your kids is loveless marriage. And if that's what you're in, you should get out. Right? Or abuse or any of those things, right?
Absolutely.
So staying together is not the answer, right? Because that can be just as nasty, right? But what is the answer is just it's in, you know, utilizing these kind of tools and how you really go about it. So yeah.
And in fact, staying together and having a bad marriage is as bad as having an acrimonious divorce. An acrimonious marriage is as bad, right? It's the same, it's the other side of the same coin.
Right. Absolutely.
Don't grab that coin.
Don't grab that coin. Yeah, absolutely. So now you have a free gift for the audience, which I'm really excited about. It's the Magic of Communication Workbook. It's 36 pages, guys. This is exciting. So there's the Magic of Communication Workbook. So tell us a little bit about that.
So one of the first things, one of the cornerstones, right, of not only a good relationship, but of how to do stuff for kids is learning how to communicate, communicating to your teens, communicating to your spouse. Learning how to communicate is so key. And if you think about the number of people who come from divorce, a lot of us don't know how to do that. And I went to a therapist too, and I didn't learn how to communicate from the therapist either. He was, anyway, whatever. So I really, the biggest gift I can give someone is a tool and exercises to how to communicate, and an idea, right, of steps you can take. Intentional communication is different. If you're angry, if you have a difficult conversation to do, it takes time and preparation. You don't go at it angry. I'm mad at you because, or you did X, Y, and Z. If you want to resolve something, it's intentional and strategic. So I wanted to give a tool that people could use to have those difficult conversations, whether it's about doing the dishes or about, taking out the garbage, or whether it's bigger than that.
Right. Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you so much for this amazing tool. We all need that. We all need that, whether we're getting divorced or staying together. So guys, up next, we have Dr. Rowena Winkler, PhD, talking about how her IVF journey led her to her soul purpose. Really excited for that. She's also an astounding person. If you guys like Martha, you're going to love Rowena. She is really, really just such a cool soul. So Martha, thank you so much for all of this insight and for really peeling back the layers, right? To help us understand what, why we might be people pleasers, why we might have been chameleons, some of these things that maybe we haven't taken a look at, and also the tools for really being able to discover who we are and what we want. And of course, communication. You're giving us a workbook, but obviously communication has been a thread throughout as well. So we've really appreciated spending this time with you today. We just have like 1 minute left. Is there any final parting words you'd like to give our audience before we dance out of here?
Awareness, being aware of what you're doing and how you're showing up is the biggest gift you can give those around you and yourself.
Awesome. I love it. All right, guys, be aware, be great communicators, grab that workbook, and I'm gonna skedaddle out of here, and we will be back on the next top of the hour for Rowena Winkler, and we are gonna dance on out of here. We'll see you guys soon.
Bye. Thank you.
That was an amazing speaker. We're here with Ginny Trask and Kimberly Hobscheid and Dr. Ali Lankarani from Role Model Maker at rolemodelmaker.com. Dr. Ali is on a mission to support, inspire, and empower as many people as possible to step into their thrive and leave a legacy. Join us at the top of the hour for our next speaker.